My 28F boyfriend, 28M, feels insecure about my drawings. Okay, this probably sounds weird, but that's the reason I'm reaching out to you all. We've been together for nearly 2 years and a half. So I had a conversation with my boyfriend about my art earlier today, to which he stated that my art revolves around my taste in men. And the convo goes as follows. Me. What do you mean? Him. You only draw men and most of them are with dark long hair and with muscular bodies. You can't tell me it's a coincidence. Me. You think I only draw men who are up to my taste? Him. Yep, you can't convince me otherwise. Me. Here's the thing, I've drawn men my whole life because I prefer their anatomy. I draw long hair because I like drawing hair and the dark color is just a coincidence. Mostly dark so that the shading isn't that visible. They're muscular because it's easier for me to learn anatomy this way, especially when all tutorials are poses with muscular builds. Oh, and the last drawings were men with short hair. You can't say that I'm projecting my taste in men onto my art. Him. Oh come on, I've seen you look at guys on the street with long hair all the time. I can see what your preference is. Note. I know how jealous he is and I'd never even think of looking at another guy in his presence cause I just know what will ensue lol. I might have glanced randomly in someone's direction but not with the intention of enjoying their appearance. What led to this conversation is a weird situation again. We bumped into a colleague with his girlfriend. We hadn't seen him before IRL and I commented how his video camera distorts his face to be more elongated and I wouldn't have recognized him so easily because of that. And then he hit me with the following, did you see his girlfriend though? Me. What about her? She looked nice. Him. Yeah she did, she looked good, athletic, pretty nice. Me. Okay. Him. See? Not so nice to hear compliments from me of the opposite gender. Me. What's so bad about noting something positive about other people, even if it's the opposite gender? Doesn't mean you're attracted to them. Note. I come from a family where my mother and dad would constantly comment on beautiful actors and joke around with them, so I thought it's nothing too bad to do. Him. It's not a nice thing when you note things about the opposite gender more than you note about me. I compliment him a lot and for some reason that's not enough for him lol. Me. When did I compliment someone? Him. When we bumped into a colleague and then you noted how tall and thin he is. I commented that because the last time I saw him I thought he was a lot shorter and chubbier. Didn't mean it as a compliment. Me. How is that a compliment? Him. You said he's tall and thin, isn't it? My boyfriend is shorter and chubby so I guess that would explain it. Me. I didn't intend for it to sound like that. Him. Sure you didn't. I'm at loss. I'm probably at fault to some extent, but I've never had a boyfriend who is that jealous. And I don't know what to do. The tall and thin conversation was a very long argument where he was upset for a long time and would bring it up to prove a point why his jealousy is justified. I constantly feel like I'm in the wrong around him. I feel bad about having male friends since he labels most of them as white knights, because, in his opinion, they most likely have a crush on me. I barely even chat with them on a daily basis and he comes up with the idea that they're friends with me because I'm a girl? Please give me some advice what to tell him or what to do. I most likely wronged at some point but the fact that I never had such issues in previous relationships leads me to believe that the issue doesn't lie completely in me. Thank you in advance. Edit. A Redditor advised me to include this in my post so here it is. I'll share another detail which might play a huge role. We had many fights and disagreements last year, which led me to spend more time with colleagues, one of which really cheered me up, to the point where I felt like I developed a crush and confided in a friend to ask for advice how to handle it, shared how shitty I felt and wanted to get rid of this feeling. My boyfriend snooped on my messages then, saw this conversation and flipped. I never acted on those feelings, never hung out alone with my colleague and never really flirted or anything with him. But ever since then he has been feeling more insecure and has snooped on my conversations 2 more times. Not sure if this is fixable but I'd love to hear your opinion. This was such a weird interaction from him. He's very insecure for his age. Your BF's self-esteem is his responsibility, not yours. Validation from others will never raise one's self-esteem, it has to come from within. Jealousy is also his issue. His being jealous is a problem he needs to solve. You can't alter your life so you live in a box and look at no one and think of no one just because he's jealous. This is a him issue, not a you issue. He needs to take a long hard look at himself and decide if he wants to be this petty, insecure, jealous, unhappy, distrusting person or if he wants to feel good about himself, feel secure in his relationship with you and be fucking happy. This relationship is tainted. He isn't over your crush faux pas, so he doesn't trust you. You're not doing anything wrong. Your boyfriend's jealousy is not a result of you doing the wrong thing. It's all him, and you can spend your whole life trying to be better, to avoid him getting upset, and it will never be enough. You could spend every day sitting in a dark closet, and he would be upset because he'd decide you must be thinking about other men. You describe being so careful already to avoid looking at random men. You're already constantly trying to keep him happy, and his reaction is still to tell you that you're messing up, you're at fault, you're in the wrong, and it's your job to try to placate him. This is not healthy and it will not get better. Please don't resign yourself to a life of constantly, futilely trying to please him. After reading you edit, it seems you both would be better apart rather than together. Sounds like he has some deep insecurities that have nothing to do with you. Try opening up a discussion. No arguing, no yelling, just honesty. Where is this attitude really coming from? If he is not open to talking about it, try bringing it up later. But in the end, you should be with a man who appreciates your artwork and compliments it and is secure enough in who he is that he accepts that you picked him. Not the men you compliment, not the men you draw, him. If he isn't willing to open up about it or change, maybe he isn't the guy for you. Seems he has a pretty damn good reason to worry after you added the important info at the end. He sounds insecure as fuck, but let's not pretend he doesn't have a reason. He's insecure for sure. But it sounds like you probably do want to date someone who looks more like the men you draw. I, 19M, opened up about my grooming experience to my girlfriend, F19, and she didn't take it well. Apologies if I don't make sense, but I don't feel well at all. And #X200B. Backstory. When girlfriend and I started dating, I was sort of hesitant when it came to sex, but I wasn't aware that my girlfriend took heed of my reactions, responses. I would do my best to respond well and not reject her, because I actually really enjoyed it. But for some reason I couldn't bring myself to be less shy and ashamed about it. And #X200B. Fast forward a year, girlfriend mentions this to me. She tells me how rejecting I always was and how that made her feel really uncomfortable and ashamed, and she said she doesn't really feel like being intimate with me anymore. That took me by surprise because I didn't realize I have been acting that well. It hurts a lot to know I have been rejecting my girlfriend all this time. And #X200B. I apologized. I told her I would do my best to not reject her ever again, and I never meant to hurt her or make her feel humiliated. She said I made her stop being sexually attracted to me. I told her that regardless of that, I would still do my best to make her feel wanted, for I truly desire her. And #X200B. Fast forward few months, the same thing happened again. She told me I would act cold whenever we were intimate. This, again, surprised me because I thought I was acting better and getting less and less ashamed than before. I told her I didn't know I was coming off as such. I apologized again, but for some reason, I felt like now was the right time to open up to her about my experience. And #X200B. I told her I was groomed in my early teens by a 25-year-old woman. At first, the relationship felt normal, but as it progressed, I realized that the woman had different intentions. She started asking extremely inappropriate questions, regarding my private parts and whatnots. She asked about it, she asked about my size. It was getting really uncomfortable, but I felt bad for cutting her off. I thought it was normal. I ended up blocking her a few months later. And #X200B. My girlfriend didn't take this well. At first, she apologized. She then asked me what am I trying to say by telling her about this experience. I finally told her that the reason I have been hesitant at first is because I felt really ashamed of sex because I constantly associated it with that woman and the experience. Well, she said, do you understand how hurtful this is? I don't want to be intimate with you again. I don't feel like it anymore. And #X200B. Needless to say, I felt like it was such a mistake to mention my experience to her. I am not sure if I was supposed to take it to the grave with me. It wasn't excusable, no, but I thought it would make her understand better why I acted off. And #X200B. What do I do? What do I tell her now? She doesn't even feel intimate with me anymore. She doesn't desire it. She said that this makes it seem like she traumatized me every time she mentioned sex. This wasn't the case at all. I enjoyed it, but I felt really shy. I told her that. She said that she doesn't know what to say. Don't really know what to do. And #X200B. TLDR. Girlfriend said my experience with being groomed is really hurtful and she doesn't want to be sexual with me anymore. Well, she said, do you understand how hurtful this is? I don't want to be intimate with you again. I don't feel like it anymore. Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. You shared an incredibly important moment in your life and your girlfriend made it about herself. Who responds like that? You did not make a mistake in telling her. Everyone has trauma and you told her yours when you were ready. If she's holding that against you, then it might be time to reassess if this is a person you want to be with. How would you react if she told you something equally important? Would you push her away for it? You dump her ass. You told her about your negative sexual experience and she took it as an attack on her. If the genders were reversed, this would never fly. This is not acceptable. I'm so sorry about what happened to you. I hope you seek the help and healing you deserve, because you do deserve to heal from this. You also deserve a partner who will be respectful and understanding of your past. This girl is not that person. Excuse me? You open up to her about being groomed and she makes it about herself and starts to blame you for it. This isn't good for you. She isn't good for. She seems very narcissistic to think that your hesitance due to past trauma would have something to with her. Like who thinks like that? In turn, she's making you feel bad for it hurting your already bruised self. You are worth more than this. You are better than these women. Move on and find your happiness. It seems like your girlfriend is taking offense to your own past, which is, in my opinion, selfish and deluded. A good way to go about it is reiterate to her that this wasn't a personal attack and tell her how it feels that she took offense to you sharing something deeply personal to you. She is not capable of supporting your emotions and probably never will be. You are vulnerable with her and her only response is to demand more from you. If you stay with her, her toxic masculinity will show itself in other ways. You will never be man enough for her. No actual person will. Dump this awful person. She instantly made your very traumatic abuse about herself. Absolutely disgusting. This is gonna be a real unpopular opinion, but I don't think your girlfriend understood what you meant. From your phrasing in the post, it sounds very much like you told her that sex is a traumatizing experience and in particular sex with her, your GF, is traumatizing and makes you think about the other woman. Phrased like that, I wouldn't ever want to touch my boyfriend again out of fear to traumatize him or make him think of that woman again. Have an honest, mature discussion with her about what you meant. Then decide how to proceed. Don't blow up your relationship over what could have been a misunderstanding. She probably let it go so long because she thought it was her and maybe it would get better. Dump her and get therapy. Better yourself first. 28 male. Recently learned that I've been sleeping with a married woman, 36 female. I don't know if I'm posting this in the right forum, so please let me know. The title pretty much gives it away, but I'll explain a little more. About 6 months ago I met a woman, Jane, not her real name, at a business networking event. We work in the same industry but for different companies. I did not know she was married and she was not wearing a ring. We talked business for a while and exchanged numbers. For about 1 month we talked regularly in a purely professional way. But it got flirty very quick and we met for a drink and slept together. It never occurred to me that she might be married. We have been sleeping together for 5 months. The first half of which was purely physical, but I started developing feelings for her and it certainly seemed like she felt the same way. We would meet after work for a drink or two and then go to my place or sometimes a hotel. After a while it seemed a little weird that she never wanted to go back to her place, but she said she had a roommate and that her place was more than an hour away. I offered to come over on a weekend but she never wanted me to. I guess I got to a point where I wanted something more. She made it clear that this was just a physical thing, but when I told her that I started dating someone else and it was serious, she got very upset and jealous. I told Jane that I was willing to end things with the other woman I was seeing if Jane wanted to get more serious. Not too long after this I got a friend suggestion on Facebook and it was Jane but with a different last name. Her married name. She is married and has 2 kids, both under the age of 10. The next time I saw her I confronted her and I thought she was going to have a heart attack. She begged me not to say anything to her husband. She even tried to suggest that she would accuse me of rape if I said something, but I reminded her of all the proof I had that it was consensual and that most of our meeting were initiated by her. It was a half-hearted threat and I'm not too worried about it. Especially after I told her that I had been recording our conversation and had the threat on tape. What should I do here? Should I contact her husband or just walk away? Part of me wants to tell her husband, but I'm a little worried about the aftermath and what I might be dragged into. Any thought and advice is helpful, thanks I'm advance. If my wife cheated on me I would like to know. But with proof. Poor husband. He deserves to know. Do what you think is right, cut all communication with her. Do tell the husband he deserves to know an affair for 6 months and she lied lying face. This is not acceptable behavior. Call the husband, ask him to meet you, give him printouts of messages and all details. He and his children deserve so much more. As for you, thank God you discovered this in 6 months. Go and see with her after giving the husband all the proof. Go to a lawyer first and foremost. Find out your legal issues and options. As a decent person you should contact the husband. Do it in a way advised by your lawyer. Don't let her get away with this. He needs to know. By the way, that fact she threatened to accuse you of rape shows how much she values you, and her husband. That is why a lawyer is important. You are not the bad guy here unless you continue with this and don't say anything. Her husband deserves to know what kind of person his wife is. Would you want to know if your wife was a cheater? Tell him. It's all on her. She shouldn't have cheated. From the family perspective, husband needs to know. It's more than likely she has done with before, and has other affairs going on. Husband needs to know so he can get a STD check. My dad cheated on my mom and it did affect how I looked at my dad. He was hypercritical and used my mom. The kids need to be safe. Mom may not love daddy anymore, but she needs to divorce him, not cheat around. If you have the proof, tell the husband that you are not being vengeful or spiteful but want to tell him man to man, his wife isn't loyal. She made the decision to cheat knowing she could get caught and didn't care. She made her bed so she can lie in it. If you're honest, you'll feel a weight lifted. It would be a moral win for you to tell him. Her not disclosing her marriage to you was beyond a betrayal. The problem is there is no anonymous way for you to out her transgression. Assuming you have messages you could use as evidence, how could you provide that information without outing yourself? Which puts you in the middle of her trashbag marriage. You have to ask yourself if the likely drama is worth your time. He may choose to be angry at you instead of blaming his wife for the infidelity. I've seen that happen a few times. Misdirected anger as an excuse to stay with a toxic partner. Gather evidence. Tell her husband. Bring a friend or two along in case he tries to explode on the first person he sees. Tell him you had no idea and that you're sorry. Tell him you're willing to be a witness on his behalf should a divorce occur. I refused my boyfriend's proposal even though I want to continue our relationship. Me, 23F, and my boyfriend, 26M, have been together for about 5 years. We have had our ups and downs just like any other couple. At the beginning of our relationship I made it clear to him that I wouldn't get engaged before I finished school. Which would be around 28. I've almost finished my bachelor's degree in international relations and I've been accepted to law school in New York. Studying in New York has always been my dream. I currently am studying in Seoul. My boyfriend is working here and we have discussed going long-term until I finish law school. My boyfriend has always known about my long-term plans. I made it very clear since the beginning because I didn't want him to be blindsided by anything and he told me he was not planning to get married before 30 anyways. Fast forward 5 years later and he proposes to me on front of his entire family. My family lives in France so they were not there. I am standing there so blindsided and uncomfortable, we don't even live together. Meanwhile his whole family is awaiting my answer. I gently ask him if we could discuss this in another room and he says, why? We go to another room and I tell him, I love you but you know I don't want to get married until I finish school. We discussed this. He replies, if you love me you'll say yes. I say, no, but that doesn't mean I don't want to be with you. And he gets so angry with me and we argue. I end up leaving in tears. 2 days later, he still has not contacted me even though I've tried to talk to him. I see he has not logged out of Facebook on the iPad and I see messages on my computer from him and his mother saying, if I propose to her she won't be able to leave for law school. She'll just have to go to one here. If we are married she will have to live in Seoul from now on. I was so upset I can't even describe. He ended up coming over to talk and I confronted him telling him he didn't log out and I saw the texts. He immediately told me he just doesn't want to lose me and etc. I just don't know how to feel now. He wants to lock you down before you go to school. Is this going to be an LDR while you are at law school? Because this sounds like he's insecure that you might leave him while you're away at school. I'd be really concerned about how manipulative this is. Has he been manipulative in the past? He proposed, you declined. It's over. Very few relationships recover from something like that. I'm not saying people don't try, but the bitterness of the first rejection taints the rest of the relationship. He is already insecure and is coming up with ways to stunt your growth and bind you to him. As soon as the LDR happens, the cheating accusations will begin and he will try to force you to prove to him you aren't cheating and love him. There's no good ending to this. Both of you grew apart during the 5 years you were together. He might have started off with plans not to marry until 30, but that changed. What I find confusing is that he assumes you'll have to give up your dreams of NYU law by accepting his proposal. Couldn't you just go through the 3 years of law school while engaged? Then again, it's your life, and I don't think that is what boyfriend wants. Go to New York and get that degree. Even if you stay in Seoul, you'll regret it and start resenting him. Break up with him. 4-5 years apart from Seoul to NY? It won't last. End it now. I would be absolutely furious. He is so selfish he would marry you just to stop you living your dream. You are obviously a smart woman. Please think hard about whether you want to continue a relationship with this kind of man. He will be tampering with your birth control next. Don't ever leave your own path to get onto someone else's. That was not appropriate for him to do. He knew what you wanted and he even agreed to it before. Based on the messages you saw, his mother is probably influencing him to do things. He should know better though. He knows you better and he's an adult who can make his own decisions without his mom.